Okay, I think we
Isn't it Wednesday today?
Wednesday.
Yeah, you've got Thursday on your thing.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Let me check.
I was just reading it so I could share it. Bring my crowd with me.
Oh yeah, I do have Thursday. Yeah.
You got a bit of a following you. You become Are you one of the?
I'm world famous with 15 people.
Okay. All right, let's go, guys. I think we're live. So I do have Thursday on that image there that I posted. That was a big poo-poo. We'll get that figured out for next time. It's too late for this time. Okay, so we're going to talk today about getting going again, not after the pandemic, but after the pandemic stoppage that we've had, after the lockdown that we've had. We're going to talk about, we could drift into talking about the pro game, how they're going to get started. We're going to talk about our college kids, our club players, high school kids, how we get started doing that. And also how what the future is going to look like. So today I've got Ajit with me and Barry with me. So just briefly again, Barry, if you could just introduce yourself, and then Ajit, if you could do that after, then we'll get going.
Okay, Barry Walmsley moved to the US in the early 80s to play college soccer. Stayed here, coached a while, and then started a company called Travel and Play, which is struggling right now. Not many people traveling to Europe to play soccer this year. So I have time to sit and chat to Mike and Ajit on whatever topic Mike wants me to talk about most weeks. So.
Hello, everybody. Mike, thanks very much for having me on this this broadcast here. This, I guess it's a webinar. I don't know. We're on so many these days, it's difficult to determine which one's which. But my name's Dr. Ajit Kulkarkar. I'm an associate professor at. I just moved this. I'll start this summer. This fall at Tennessee Tech. I teach exercise physiology. Sports nutrition. I've been involved in soccer for a long time. I also played college soccer here and then signed for Orlando in the ASL. And then been involved in coaching for many years. I was state director, worked on the region staff and ODP. My most recent position is I accepted a job with Nashville SC's Academy. As you know, Nashville SC is now in the MLS. We've only played 2 games. But my job is a performance coach. And so my role is to track a number of different things in terms of the overall development of our young players.
Okay, so Ajit, just before we get started, is your hair usually that long, or is that a pandemic lockdown haircut?
It is. It was. I shaved it a couple of months. No, I didn't. It has been that long for several years now. Barry knew me back in my day when actually my hair was a bit like Barry's, but it was quite short. But I had decided to grow it out a bit longer. It's not a pandemic trend. But you never know. So it might take on, probably not. But no, it's not. And I just got out of the shower because I've been on a couple of calls this morning, so it probably looks a little bit scraggy.
Just checking. Okay, well, let's get going. I think we'll start with the pro game. So Germany's already started. The EPL is just getting started. They've had training sessions in groups of 6, and I think now I saw this morning that they've just agreed to start full-time training with full contact and the full squad all at the same place. So what do we think about that, Barry?
I just think I've been watching the German games because sat at home, and it's great to see live football again. I think it's taken a couple of weeks now. We're on the 3rd set of games, Tuesday and Wednesday this week. And I think the games have improved tremendously since the first weekend as players have got used to playing again. I mean, there's, the old saying, you can be fit, but you can't get match fit without actually playing the games.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been interesting to watch a couple of weeks. I think the Premier League needs to follow some of the ideas that the Germans have put in.
Like what?
Well, some of the games for particular interest, yesterday I watched the Dortmund Munich game, and they had crowd noise playing behind the game. I think that seemed to help the atmosphere of the game, even though you knew it wasn't really people. You can't hear the thud of the ball anymore, or the every little noise in the crowd or anything. That seems to be a bit, I don't know, off-putting when you're watching the game. Mönchengladbach, who I was lucky enough, I mean, crazy times, back in the 70s, I was 15, 78, Man City played Mönchengladbach. It was the first place I went to watch a game outside of England. Since then, I've always been a bit of a Mönchengladbach fan, and paid €19 a few weeks ago to have a cutout of me put in the crowd. So if you watch Gladbach, there's about 14,000 cutouts in the crowd. I noticed Cologne put shirts over some of the seats. And I think it's Aarhus in Denmark next week are going to put a Zoom screen up with fans on the Zoom screen, with over 1,000 fans on the Zoom screen on the side of the field, so they can actually see inside the stadium and people can see them.
Okay.
So kind of interesting.
Well, what are your thoughts, Ajit, especially with the English Premier League getting going, training again?
Yeah, and to tie it back into even what we're doing in MLS, one of the issues we're going to run into here is obviously players have not been training, and there's been some individual training, but a lot of comparisons have been made to when the NFL had their strike back in, I think it was 2011. The difference being is that when the NFL had its strike, and they were like a 14-week strike, the athletes could have gone anywhere and trained, and they could have gone to private gyms, whatever was available at the time. Whereas under the current situation, this pandemic, that has not been the case. So the lack of training is a real concern. When they had there was a study that came out, they looked at the amount of Achilles injuries from the players returning from the NFL strike. Over the course of the season, I think there was like maybe 3 to 5 Achilles injuries, Achilles ruptures. But after they returned from the 14-week strike, there was like 25 Achilles ruptures in like the first 10 to 15 days. So injuries are going to be a real concern for these players coming back. You'd like to think that these players are working out, doing the workouts they're supposed to. Our club here in Nashville, they've been prescribed workouts that they're supposed to do, and everything's been tracked and monitored. But it's difficult to determine what each player is actually doing. So I think injuries is a real concern. I do like the fact that the 5 substitution rule, I think, is going to be a benefit. I honestly believe that the game should have been cut down and not 90 minutes, because I think that could have potentially reduced injuries. And for some players, we know that were injured before this happened might actually be playing now. So for them, it's going to look fit.
Manchester United got a couple, don't they? They got Marcus Rashford and Pogba back. Yeah. So that's going to help them. I'm pretty sure there's going to be injuries, because even no matter how much they've been training, like Barry said, you've got game fitness and they've got no warm-up games to play. They pretty much, other than intra-squad, they're going to get right into it. It's probably going to take them 3 or 4 games to be back up there. And so I'm sure there's going to be injuries. What about from a virus point of view? So let's take away the soccer part of it. Let's look at it from a virus point of view. England and the UK is a lot more in a pretty bad state compared to places over here in the US as far as the virus is going. They tested all the English Premier League players, and I think there were 6 of them that were positive. And then I think 2 or 3 days later, they tested them again, and a different 2 were positive. So my question is, if they tested them and they were positive, okay, so right now they've been kind of individual training and training in groups. Now they're going to be training as a team. So they're going to be slide tackling, falling on each other, pushing each other, touching each other, corner kicks, crowded areas and stuff like that. They're going to be playing games. What's going to happen if they test them and one guy is tested positive? In the regular scheme of things, that guy would be quarantined, and everybody else that's been in touch with him would have to be quarantined. What do you think is going to happen in that?
It seems like they're trying to do it differently to Germany. Germany has basically put everybody in a hotel for 9 weeks.
Oh, they have?
Yes. So they're living in hotels, and all they're doing is going to training, going to the hotel. They're the only ones in the hotel, and then they're going to the games, and that's all they're doing. In fact, one of the managers in Germany walked to the corner store and got some toothpaste, and he wasn't allowed to be with the team for another 7 days, just for going to the corner store. But in England, it seems like they're living at home, going back and forth to their families, because Troy Deeney has a 5-month-old baby who has breathing difficulties, so Troy Deeney's refused to train. Now, whether when the games come around, they're going to move them and have them all live together, or that's what there's been discussion like, just like the MLS has discussed with Disney and going down there to play. Whether England's going to do that or if they're going to carry on going home to their families, I don't know.
Have you heard that? I've not heard that. Have you, Ajit?
Yes.
Have you heard anything?
Yeah. Again, we're reading probably the same things, but it appears that what they're doing in the German model is basically combining all those that are going to be playing the remainder of these games, all the players and what they call essential staff. And so, one of the suggestions, and I've seen this on social media, and many of us know Pat Dix down in Orlando, great guy, and they're talking about, are they going to use that area as to have all the players stay there? And that's not been determined yet, as far as I know. But that would certainly contain some of the issues that you're running into. Whereas the Premier League, these players are going to the game and then they're going back home again, and so that presents a real problem, right? Of course, what the consequences of that are right now, I don't think we'll know. But you get 2 or 3 players that are out, and look at what's happened at Brighton. I think have they got 3 players out or 2 players out potentially?
Yeah,
I believe so. And I think Bournemouth lost their goalkeeper today for a week, Ramsdale.
Okay, so
how do you play without your first string goalkeeper?
Yeah, well, I would say that you better make sure the youth team is ready to go, because this is a great opportunity for some of these young lads to get in. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but we may see some players because, like you said, Mike, if there's, players are interacting with each other, and everyone's trying to do the celebrations where you don't actually, make contact, but that's just not possible. I mean,
but I want to take it a stage further, though. So not only are you losing the player who's tested positive, but he's just trained yesterday or the day before or for the past couple of days. He's just trained with, the rest of his teammates, and he's just played a game on Saturday against another team.
Yep.
So in theory, anybody who's been in contact with somebody who's positive now has to be quarantined also, self-isolated also. Are they not going to do that? Are they going to say, okay, yeah, we know you've breathed the same air as that guy and you've been pushing and shoving him and you've played soccer against him and all the rest of it, but he's tested positive, you haven't, so you're okay to carry on. Now they've got, am I going to, okay, I've been in contact with that guy. Am I going to go home to my wife and kids and risk giving it to them? How is that going to work?
My understanding there's been like constant testing. The players are continually being tested for the virus because, like you said, at any one time you could have 2 or 3 players or half a team tested positive. And if that happens, I don't know what they're going to do, because you could see a lot of players. You've got to be out for at least 2 weeks or 14 days.
Well, okay, so we're talking soccer, and I bring it back to the NFL. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. We've got Patrick Mahomes. What if Patrick Mahomes is tested positive? He's out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, what can you, but I guess it's just like, okay, well, if test is positive, it's just the same as he's injured. He's injured. Yeah. If he was injured, he wouldn't be able to play. You just got to do.
In Germany, again, Dresden had 2 players, and I think it's up to 4 players now, 2 tested positive and then another 2. They didn't play their games. They stayed at the hotel and they've been isolated for the first 2 weeks. So they're not even playing the game. So Germany's doing it.
But what about the games they should have played?
I assume they're going to try and reschedule them.
You're trying to reschedule games that you've rescheduled just playing?
Well, the big news I heard today, though, was because they're starting contact drills, Mesut Ozil's quit Arsenal because we didn't realise contact was in the game.
I knew that was coming. As soon as you mentioned his name, Mesut Ozil,
Yeah.
I knew there was the joke coming with that one.
That was coming, was it? It was just a matter of time.
Okay.
So,
Well, okay. So that's the pro game. I think the pro game is going to be really interesting, not just with soccer, but with all sports. If they're quarantined, then that is a way around it. But of course, they're just quarantining them to finish the season. Can you quarantine the NFL for 5 months of games? Can you quarantine the MLS for their 6 months, 7 months, 8 months season? How is that going to work?
The reality is this: look, there's a lot of money involved, right? I mean, they've cancelled the Women's Premier League, right? And they're going to do this average points. And Man City, I think, were a point ahead of Chelsea, but Chelsea and Arsenal had a game in hand in the Women's League. And so if they do it on average points, there's a good chance that Chelsea could win the league. We might win something this year. So, but the reality is that money is a big pusher for this, and we can't ignore the sponsors. We can't ignore what the finances that go on behind these games. And so European spots, promotion, relegation, there's so much money involved in this. I just think that that has a major impact, and we clearly see that it does, because these leagues are going to be continued, and we're going to finish the Premier League because there's a lot of money at stake for those that get relegated, assuming they do get relegated, assuming there is going to be a relegation. But I think there's so many other things other than, I hate to say it, other than just the health and safety.
Oh yeah, there's definitely the other considerations in there. I'm just trying to figure it out from the player's point of view. Is okay, I'm training and playing with these guys, and 2 of them have tested positive. Do I want to go home to my wife and kids? And there's already a number of athletes who are saying, they don't want to do this until things are more sorted out. Even I forget his name, the British golfer, actually English guy, anyway. But he said he's not going to be he's not going to be getting on any planes anytime soon. He's happy to sit it out until July or something like that, until things become more clear.
Now, I don't know I know Spurs have a hotel right at their training ground. I know Man City have hotel quality rooms at their training ground, which are actually on a walkway to the stadium. Spurs is a little bit farther away from White Hart Lane. I don't know about the others. I know Chelsea are out down at Cobham, and there's a couple of really nice country hotels. Whether they'll decide to try and do that once it's time to start playing, I don't know. And there's still the discussion. They still haven't decided when the games are and whether they're going to be at one site, whether they're going to be all over. There was talk today that the FA Cup will be finished with every game at Wembley.
But then you run into the issue of the stadium sponsors, right? Because that's a huge money issue. The stadium sponsors and they've put in an awful lot of money. We just saw the bank that sponsors LAFC have just announced that they are not going to continue that sponsorship. Are we going to see others that fall from this? There's a lot more fallout than we probably know at this point. But it's a tough situation because you look at what others are looking to do, maybe house all games in one area, or the Premier League doesn't seem to be doing that. But I don't know what they're going to end up doing, to be quite honest. And I don't envy the people that have got to make these decisions.
No, there's some tough decisions to be made. I actually didn't realize, or I guess this has made me realize, how integral sports is in everyday life. I don't consider myself, I consider myself a sports guy in one respect, is I love sports and stuff like that, but I don't watch sports on TV in general. I watch my teams. If Sheffield United are playing on TV, I'll watch that game. If the Kansas City Chiefs are playing, I will watch that. Now, I won't sit down and watch, the Dallas Cowboys play the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. I'll be busy doing some other stuff. Now, I may watch a little bit of it, and when the Champions League games are on in the afternoon while I'm working, I'll put them on while I'm working, but I won't. They're not integral. They're not critical, and I don't set my calendar to watch them. But now there's no sports on TV. It's like, what the heck? There's such a void in, you're just missing out on news of what's happening. Because even though I don't watch it, I know that, Liverpool just lost in the Champions League, and what a big deal that was. And how did they manage to do that? Even though you don't really focus in, it's still a big part of your everyday life. And the thing that blew my mind was they just had that golf event on with Tiger and Phil and Brady and Manning. I think that's the most watched golf event ever in the history. It beat any Masters, any British Open, any US Open. They had more viewers watching that than they've had any other golf event because people are so desperate.
Yeah.
And what it's just a lame, friendly event. Yeah. So it's like that for everybody.
Yeah, which is a great opportunity for the Bundesliga, and it's great to watch some of these teams. We've got some Americans playing in there. You watch Alphonso Davies playing on the left side for Bayern Munich, a Canadian lad, originally born in Africa, but grew up in Canada, Edmonton. And what a great opportunity it is for some of these players and for us to see them, because I don't know how much we would get to see, it's I think, the games, I've enjoyed them. There's been some good goals. Yes, it's the games are a little bit different. We're used to sometimes seeing maybe a little bit higher tempo in some of these games, but I think they're being smart about what they're doing.
Did they say anything about putting the? I know I heard it mentioned. Have they made a decision on the English Premier League games? They were going to just put them on over-the-air TV, BBC or ITV or something. I don't know.
They did say today that they believe they want to try and have as many games as possible on Saturday and Sunday and not use midweek, so that the Champions League and other things can start as well, and that they would have a game at 12, 2, 4, 6 and 8 both days. So you'd have one game at a time, so they can put all 10 games on TV.
Now, are they putting instead of having to pay for it with Sky? I heard they were going to put it on regular TV.
Some will be on Sky and some will be on regular TV, so you'll get a chance to see them. What I found very disappointing was a lot of people have told me that Man City have got a better chance now because they're used to playing in an empty stadium, which I thought was a bit rude.
Well, Man City could actually, I guess Liverpool could. That it's been like a timeout for Liverpool. They desperately needed one. They were just, their season was just struggling a little bit. They got that timeout, and now they can regroup and get back going again. But let's switch. Let's start talking about our level, our players we coach. So, Ajit, the MLS players have started training?
They have been. They have started training for a few weeks now. They've been doing some individual training. And like for us, there are going to be 4 players on the field, so they get a quarter of the field. And then they do individual work. And so they'll push towards getting into more. Once we find out exactly what the MLS can do. Sorry, just 1 second.
Is that your dog? What's up? Let the dog in. Poor thing.
The dog's smaller than him, to be fair.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Is your dog in there?
There's 2 of them. These are the type of situations you run into when you got to work from home, right? Hey, look,
no, I'm a dog guy. I like dogs, so I don't mind dogs being anywhere.
If it can happen on CNN, it can happen here. So, yeah, they have done some training, and I think that, we're all waiting to see what the next steps are, certainly for the MLS, and see what when these games are going to take place and when we're going to see more, team type training, because obviously there's more.
When is that going to start?
I'm sorry?
When is team training going to start, do you think? Have they got any?
Well, there's going to be some meetings, I believe, this week that the MLS will have. They're meeting, I think, having calls almost daily. And I don't know the exact dates. I'm not privy to that information, but it will have to, I would assume it will have to happen relatively quickly. I know that I think after June 1 that, like I think some of the youth players are allowed to start doing. They've been doing some individual stuff. Of course, it's all dependent upon what your state says here, right? We have different laws. I mean, where I live, there's different policies in different counties. It's not just the state. There's different policies for the bigger cities and the smaller cities. But getting back to what I was saying earlier, I just hope that there is enough time, and I know that the MLS or any league, okay, and I know that the MLS for sure are looking into just reading from what I can see on some of the web pages and social media. Want to make sure there's enough time for these players to have enough training so that when they get back to the games, we're not seeing huge injuries and long-term injuries, right? From fatigue, because we know that fatigue is a contributing factor to injury. And so that's a real issue, not just for the MLS, but, all the state cups and regional championships and national championships, whether it be, of course, we don't have the DA anymore, but whether it be, ECNL or USYS, all these regional championships and state championships, they've all been cancelled for many of the states. And so, we got to worry about some of these kids coming back. And we've got kids going.
How do we think it's going to look with, and it's going to be different state to state, I know that, but you get the okay to coach your kids again, whether you coach in a high school, a college, or a club. Now, high schools, colleges definitely have a little more, staff availability. High schools have a little bit of that, but clubs, a lot of time it's just you and the kids.
Yeah.
So how's that going to do with? What can you see as being part of the new training regime, or whatever you call it, where we're going to have to train differently, or what are we going to have to do differently?
Well, I hope that we have, as we all know, all of us have been in part of this. Soccer in this country from youth level is extremely organized because these are big businesses. And so from a paying standpoint and from a non-paying standpoint, the clubs, I know some of the local clubs around here are putting a lot of time and effort into trying to determine what is, best practices when it comes to the return to play, ensuring that these players are not, you've got to follow the protocols, whatever those protocols are going to be. And that you're going to ensure the safety of the player, right? The problem is if some states start having, if there are some major competitive events coming up very quickly, we're going to see some major injuries. We've got kids that are trying to prepare to go to college. Unfortunately, some of them won't be playing in college because their college have gotten rid of some of the programs. That's the other downside of it. But ultimately, we've got to make sure that they're given enough time, and that we like to think that the coaches have a vested interest in making sure that their players are safe for the long term. And I do believe that is the case. And like I said, some of the local clubs here in Tennessee alone, I know that they are taking considerable efforts to ensure that when they get back to the training ground, they're not going to injure any players, because the players have done very little, right? They're already playing a lot of video games. We complain about that. There's no telling how many hours of video games have been playing now.
Well, I know a lot of the clubs I work with on tours, many of them have had online training going on for 2 or 3 days. So they've been trying to get the kids to do programs for 2 hours a week, following something that the coaches have put out in guidelines. Now, that's probably some of the bigger clubs because they have the ability to do that. I think it's also partly because they didn't want to return fees and wanted to show that they were giving something to the players.
Yeah.
But to be fair, most of them did come up with something to make that work. And I know state associations did as well. But it's the same for the kids as it is for a professional. It's not the same juggling a ball in your backyard or doing some little drills, in your garden or against the wall. I know we ended up kicking a ball against the wall half our lives growing up in England, but it still wasn't the same as going out and training and playing and being at the level that some of these kids train, 3-4 nights a week now and play on weekends, a couple of games. They're not far off, a schedule that a professional player has.
Well, and these are kids that are not necessarily either ACNL or DA or any of the other leagues that have been going on. You're right, Barry. They are training 3-4 nights a week, and I've seen in social media a lot of things going on, clubs being quite creative, to be quite honest, in how they're trying to get their players to get out there and do something with the ball, because you can't replicate what you do, with one or two people to the game, right? They're totally different. But I think they've been very good about it, very creative. And yes, there's no doubt there's a financial component to this, right? But we know there are many coaches that have really struggled. And the clubs are doing the best that they can you can't pay somebody for something typically if they're not doing anything, but you don't want to decimate your club either. So
one of my concerns is what protocols are going to be put into place, and it's going to be different all over the place. But until there's a vaccine for this virus, then the threat of the virus is still there. And until somebody comes up with some, I have a fear, this is nothing to do with soccer at all, but I kind of have a feeling that, when we look back in a year's time or 18 months time, we might find that it was a little overdone locking down young and healthy people, and maybe just have been better locking down and quarantining the elderly and the the ones who are not healthy. Maybe, but we'll never know that. But the point is until somebody comes up with saying it's okay, these guys are good to go, they're at no risk, there's always going to be a risk. And I was talking to Alex Mason actually on one of these discussions a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're coming up with all kinds of protocols that, you've got to spray down and disinfect the balls after each use, and you've got to spray the goalposts and stuff like that. Well, where are we going to get the money from for somebody to do that? Volunteers, who's going to pay for the disinfectant? And that's just at a club level. If you're at a university, now the university is responsible for those players. They're going to take it to an even higher degree. They're going to say, okay, we've got to be really careful. If you wear bibs, okay, they've got to be, my bibs used to get washed once a season, beginning and end of the season. Now they're going to have to, I would train one set of kids at, 5 o'clock, and then the next set of kids would come at 6:30, and I'd train the next team at 6:30. Yeah. So you won't be able to use the same bibs for those now.
That's not happening.
What kind of protocols do you think are going to be needed or come in?
Well, I think it'll depend on the club. Some of the clubs I work with, Lone Star down in Texas, have a huge organization, probably have the funds and the wherewithal and the facilities to be able to do that. Some clubs still go to a local field. It's not even their own field, and so how do you know who's been there before? Some clubs have, a bag of soccer balls for every team. Some clubs, it's up to every kid to bring theirs. Well, what happens when that, there's always the one kid who forgets his ball. Now what's going to happen? The same with water bottles. There was always a kid who forgot his water bottle and would borrow a drink off someone else. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, is it? So does that kid get to train? Does he not get to train? On my team, when I coached, he didn't get to train anay until remember this. But that was.
Do they also? What about testing these kids? At the pro level, they can test them every day or regularly. But at the youth level, how are they going to test them?
That's not going to happen. That's a major issue, like you just said there, Mike. About at the pro level, there's all types of testing going on a daily basis, I think. From my understanding, but at the youth level, that's not going to happen. So, we know that this virus is asymptomatic, early on, and so we may have kids that are carrying the virus and then affecting others. Now, we know that younger generation typically don't suffer significantly from this. They're not dying from this, but again, it's spreading the disease to other people, and that's the issue. Yeah. And then it becomes a socioeconomic issue of, not everyone has the same background, and people have different situations that, we have kids that in certain areas that may be living with their grandparents, and they're young kids playing soccer, and that could be a real issue And maybe kids, you talked about Barry was talking about some of these clubs saying that, providing opportunities for them to go and do stuff at a local park or wherever it is. That's assuming they can actually get to that park. So,
they all used to ride to practice, didn't they? They'd carpool, take it in turns.
Yeah.
And there'd be 4 of them roll out of a car.
Well, we've all had teams where we've got kids that come from different backgrounds, and we've got, the family environment is such that it may not be conducive for the parent to get that kid for training, and you're having somebody else pick up that kid for training. What about that kid now? And under these conditions, that kid may not be training for a while, and that may be one of your better players. So I don't know what it's going to look like, Mike, to be quite honest, but I do know that whatever it is, I think we're going to see certain policies, but I've got a funny feeling that I'm quite sure that we won't see a lot of strict adherence to these policies. As we haven't seen already, right? And look, we all want to get out. It's a very, very difficult call. I think not get into a political debate, but it's a very, very difficult call to determine the reality is. If you're right next to somebody, that's not social distancing. If you're playing against somebody, you're gonna touch the ball. You're gonna touch this. We can't wipe the ball down every time somebody takes a throw or kicks it. I mean,
well, I'm really interested. We have no idea. One of the things about this pandemic is I'm really interested in how we're going to look, not only this fall with sports, but how we're going to look once we come out of this pandemic. If we do get a vaccine and things do return back to normal. Or some kind of less risk, some kind of normal anyway, the new normal. But what's sports going to look like in 2 years from now? Are we going to have 70,000 people stuffed in a stadium? What is high school sports going to look like? As far as their sports, how much? Because all these protocols, a lot of these protocols are going to cost money. Whether it's driving to the practice on your own instead of carpooling for 4. They use carpool to save money and save time. And it's just going to change. And I'm real interested to see how it's going to look.
I live in Ohio.
Not your fault, Barry. We all feel sorry for you, mate.
And about 83% of people so far have supported the governor. And he locked down very early. We've had very, very few cases compared to a lot of other places. I think I looked today, we've had less than 20,000 and there's about 1,000 died. And the majority are in 2 or 3 areas, actually around prisons, unfortunately, which in my point of view shows why we needed a lockdown, because they couldn't social distance. So that's where the issues came. But I think he'll have a big problem if he doesn't have high school American football in the fall. If he calls schools off and there's no football, I think that number will drop dramatically. And that's where the politics come into play. What's going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed. I normally travel most of the summer and the fall. I'm not going anywhere. So I actually going to be assistant coach for a high school soccer team. And we think we'll have it because we're not going to want to get rid of high school football. Now, how they do the crowd, how they do some other things, I'm not sure. I'm also a Browns season ticket holder, so don't laugh at that.
I don't. I feel sorry for you, Barry.
Well, you see my pictures. I'm there every week.
Hello.
Me and my friend, we have 2 trips planned to Dallas and Nashville still this year. We're actually we play at Tennessee this year.
Oh, right. Okay.
And we're playing. So we've both got trips. We've got trips planned to there. Now, we don't even know if we're going to be able to go yet or what's going to be the deal. But you said people wouldn't go. Me and my friends are already set to go. So it's an interesting one. I believe Tennessee is opening back up to live music this week, yes?
I think it was Monday, actually.
Yeah. And I love Nashville. I don't know if you've been to Nashville, Mike, but those bars you cannot move. You're shoulder to shoulder. So I don't know.
I've been to Nashville, yes.
How they're going to... my favorite little bar, Roberts, you can't social distance in there because you can't get 6 feet between 2 walls. It's only 12 feet across. So I think looking forward on sport is going to be really interesting. But
the Michigan, I think it was the I think it was the head of the university at Michigan, said there's going to be no sports if there's no kids on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So if we allow kids on campus for educational purposes, then we can have sports. Now, I wondered if there was any ulterior motive behind him saying that, in the sense that everybody desperately wants football. So it's scaring people to say, look, you try stopping people coming to the university and try and making us do online classes, and we're going to stop football. So I don't know if that was involved.
I know the California State University system cancelled classes for the fall already. It's all going to be online. And a lot of those schools are Division II, I believe, not Division I.
Yeah.
And they cancelled their whole fall sports program for that conference. But many of them play against each other, I believe. I'm not a big California expert, but I know they said that Division II set of sports was cancelled. Now, some of that will be money issues as well, and finances. Yeah. They don't have the money that football provides. But it'd be interesting to... I know they said they can start training, I believe, June 2nd, college soccer teams, the ones that are still there. I know another one fell by the wayside yesterday, I believe, Appalachian State.
Yes, Appalachian State got rid of the men's soccer, the track, the indoor track, I believe, and the tennis, men's tennis.
Yeah. So, and I know St. Edward's down in Austin got rid of men's soccer as well. So
it's very unfortunate. But I think that, with this return to campus, everybody's so different. I teach at the University of Tennessee in Martin, Tennessee, and the UT system said that, we'll be back in the fall. Whether that's accurate or not, I think that's the intention. Whether that's actually going to happen or not, it remains to be seen, right? We just don't know.
Yeah, 'cause we don't even know from week to week, because we don't even know, all states are pretty much loosening the restrictions now and opening up. We don't know if that's all of a sudden going to flare up into a big problem and we're going to have to lock down again, or if it's going to be okay and we're going to carry on and more towards normality. We don't even know week to week. So
but it's interesting. The World Health Organization this week said they don't expect a second wave now, and now they expect it to be gone this winter, which I don't know why or how. There was also a couple of university studies that showed it would be over with by September, October, which I think goes along with some of the things we discussed, Mike, both here and on Facebook, that, nobody really knows. So nobody, whether we went too far or it's happening because we went that far, it's not really our discussion here, but it is part of what happens when you come back and how do you come back. I still think you have to be very, very careful. And, these kids going home, my son's in college. He comes home to visit me. He's not allowed to go inside and see his grandma. He has to sit outside on the porch and chat to grandma from there. But he still brings her a laundry and she does his laundry for him, because I won't do his laundry. So, I have friends who Ajit knows where I live. I live 600 yards from a street with a bunch of bars and restaurants. So I can walk home and walk there. It's funny, it's about 5 minutes walk there and 15 minutes walk home. The difference is staggering. So, thanks, Mike. I'm glad you got that one. But they said, when you were talking about sport on TV and everything, they're really struggling in the bars, even though they've opened back up, and it's more so on patios and those types of things, and with all the social distancing. And my friends who own the bars here have done a really good job at that. They're still not as busy as they could be, even with that put in place, because people come to watch sport. They come to watch the Indians at this time of year. They come to watch playoffs for the basketball and everything, and they're missing that business as well. So sport is a big part.
Well, everything is going to be, even if we take things to its best case scenario, and let's say the virus goes and by the fall it's gone and it's not even a concern anymore. Okay, so the world is still going to be scared. The sports industry is still going to be scared. We're still going to be careful of making sure everything's clean and disinfectant and stuff like that, because it could come back. Another one could come. So people are going to be wearing masks for a long time, whether it's gone or not. People are going to choose not to go on flights unless they really need to. Not all of them, but some of them. So
And
everything's going to be.
That's going to be a big change, Mike, I think, to, in terms of the competition, because if you look at like the academy, you're trying to increase the quality of the competition, which means, you're going to have to travel, certainly in a state like Tennessee, because we're the only academy in Tennessee, and we've got Atlanta, and then in Cincinnati, they've got theirs. But there aren't a lot of academies in our area, so we'd be required to travel quite a bit. But if there's going to be a reduction in travel within the academy setting, that means that the games are going to have to be more regional games. And then you have to look at it and say, well, for us, we know that we'll get good competition. I mean, look, Atlanta are fantastic, and some of these other academies are great. They're always going to be good competition, but you can't play Atlanta every weekend. And so what are we, what's a club like ours going to do? And those are the issues that we're going through right now, and we have to take a look at. But we're not the only ones. Everyone else has to take a look at and revise maybe how much they travel, which may reduce the competition. And, there's been a revision of the, as we all know, the US Soccer pulled out of the DA, several weeks ago, and that's now been taken over by the MLS. The whole ECNL has been restructured now. They've basically absorbed many of these teams that were formerly DA academies that are now in the ECNL, which has increased, I believe, the quality of the ECNL significantly. But that initially may have meant more traveling, yet you're trying to reduce the amount of traveling based upon what's going on here. So the big picture is, and I don't know exactly what that looks like, but the big picture is that may have a major impact on player development.
Well, it will do, because there's going to be some families who just won't want to get on a plane. If you've got a club and you've got 3 teams and you travel into Florida to play some games, that's 50 families. Chances are there's going to be 1 or 2 or more of those families who, hey, we just don't feel comfortable getting on a plane just yet. And so it's going to have an effect. That's even on a best case scenario.
That's exactly what happens in my area. We've got a big club here called Tennessee Soccer Club. They're a very well organized and very well run club. And they're in the ECNL, but they have to travel. They have to fly to a lot of places because of the structure of the league, based upon where the geographic location, which we know has always been a major issue, right, in the US.
Well, that was the same, going back when I coached my team and my national championship team. We didn't even play league in the spring because it was it wasn't competitive enough. So all our games, we would travel in the spring, and we're just a club, a small club. Now we would drive to places, but we would travel probably 2 or 3 times by flight in order to play, really good quality teams that we couldn't find within driving distance or locally. Well, that's going to be a lot more difficult, less prevalent now.
I hope not. I run a company.
Well, I know, I kind of wonder how it's going to shape up, Barry. But
surprisingly, so far, the majority of our clients are looking at going next year. And I shouldn't say surprisingly. I think they're looking at it as they don't want to miss out. It's their kids' turn, and most of the clubs we work with go every year with us. So I think the case is, if it's clear, we're still going to do it. If it isn't, obviously, then it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, Barry. I've been on your tours. They're fantastic. We'll give Travel and Play a plug here. But they are fantastic tours, and I hope that we end up going on more tours again. So I can see why people would certainly stay with you, and certainly if they've traveled with you in the past or with your company. But it's a major issue, certainly for a company like yourself that's been heavily involved in the soccer business and travel for tournaments around the world for, I don't know, what it's about 25 years, Barry?
30 years, yeah.
30 years.
Like that, yeah. So I bought a lot of beers in the past, can you tell? They all just came back into play right then. So
all right, well, I think we're done here, guys. We've plugged Travel and Play for Barry, travelandplay.com for Barry. We've talked about the pro game. We've talked about players getting back. It's just going to be really, really interesting what it looks like this fall and what it looks like once we get through this pandemic. So we'll be able to look back on this and see if any of this discussion was relevant. So thanks, Ajit. Thanks, Barry. Really appreciate you getting on, and we'll end this right now.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Barry.